Can we talk about Anodyne for a second? Can we talk about how the game just kind of generally gets it? Heralded as a love letter to Zelda by pretty much every journalist ever, Anodyne harkens back to a 16-bit era, both in terms of aesthetics and design. What that means is, through the use of conveyance, the game guides you through without holding your hand or being condescending. Now, as the video goes on, I'll be pointing out moments in the gameplay that exemplify this kind of design, but sort of as filler, I guess I'll mention things like graphics and art and story and all that other stuff that no one really cares about. Right off the bat, you're given your quest. Essentially, the evil wizard Ganon seeks the legendary Triforce to use its power for evil. By which I mean, the darkness seeks the legendary Briar to use its power for evil. In order to stop this, basically you just get to the Briar first, which I guess would be the logical tactical choice. Okay, so here's the thing, so stop what you're doing and pay attention to the thing. Locked door, you can't do anything about it. You move left, enemies, can't do anything about it. So you go right. Pretty boring. Oh look, a gate and a button. The only thing you can do at this point is press the button. At this point, you know that buttons open gates. Get that? You get a broom. Weird item. Whatever. You have one button. What do? You press C, you kill the enemies, and oh look, killing enemies can also open gates. Which is important because if you recall, 3 seconds ago, we were in an area that had a gate and enemies, but no way to open it. Now with the weapon, we can open that. And lo and behold, what is inside but a key? Now assuming you know what a key does, you should be able to progress past the locked door. Is it simple stuff? Sure. You've played a lot of games, you know the mechanics, you take it for granted, but let's imagine you never played a game before. Let's take a step back and actually appreciate the forethought that goes into designing a game to guide even the dumbest of players through. Now another thing Anodyne does right is it handles the first 5 minutes of the game perfectly. And those first 5 minutes are actually important. It sounds superficial to say, but first impressions are everything. Where you can rent and download and pirate pretty much any game you want any second of any day, it's important that the game get its hooks in you immediately. Anodyne does that by being weird as hell. For one, the music is haunting and creepy. The world is intriguing, and already you've picked up a broom for an item. So, you're gonna want to play more to figure out what all that's about. It also helps that the game has a sense of humor about it, being tongue-in-cheek with pretty much everything you do, and it frequently breaks the fourth wall. Now ahead of us is a dungeon. That'll be familiar to pretty much any fan of Zelda. Now let's take a look at how the dungeon guides us through the game. Right away we perceive that clods of dirt stop lasers. Clods of dirt that we can move with our brooms. And in this room, our first encounter with this enemy who has a giant shield on his face, we actually can't attack him from the front. We can only attack him from the back. So later on, if you ended up fighting that enemy and couldn't defeat him, you'd know that you could do it from the top of the screen down. Again, it's a simple thing, but it's worth appreciating. It's clever, and a lot has to be said when you consider that this is the first game programmed by the duo over at Analgesic or however it's pronounced. They right off the bat, they know what they're doing. And that makes me want to see more. Here's a room with a pretty obvious solution. There are lasers, there are dirt. We put 2 and 2 together thanks to what we saw earlier, and we get through the room. Here, had I not moved out of the way, we would have seen that lasers also defeat enemies, which is how you would ultimately defeat that one that you can't get around to the back of. Observe, that is how the room was originally intended to be seen. For the hell of it, let's go down. This room has the right of it gated off. If you've been paying any attention at all, you know what to do about that. Also for fun, a couple of the enemies are obscured by those laser blasts. And another key. Now, because what's the point of backtracking, let's go up. Oh, now here's a fun room. There's a guy on our way, we'll sweep out of the way, but uh-oh, there's 2 buttons. But there's only one of me. What do? I push the enemy up, knowing that I can push enemies. He touches the button, I touch the other one. Anyone that's ever played a video game before knows how that goes. Anyone that hasn't can feel super accomplished. Here's a part that's a bit of a pain in the ass, but we know how to accomplish it because of what we've learned earlier in the game. But screw it, let's just go through the room with the door or the key or whatever. Now here's a room that puts it all together. You got lasers, you got enemies you can't attack from the bottom, you got a gate, and then you got a treasure chest with presumably a key in it, possibly a card, I don't know. Let's find out. And it's a card. That's exciting. And now we'll deal with the pain in the ass part. Fun fact, Anodyne, the title of the game, is an SAT word for a medicine that relieves pain. Also fun fact, the signs in the game are faded, which calls to mind the way text is displayed in dreams. So food for thought. Food for thought. At this point, it's a lot of repeating what we know, so how about we jump ahead a couple minutes to the boss battle. Yeah, you like that, don't you? Boss battle. Boss battle! Sorry. Just trying to use my voice to fill up screen time. Because I forgot to step forward far enough to queue up the boss battle. Boss battle is simple and only requires a small degree of skill. But how you go about it, the puzzle of beating him, is so clever. There we got dirt, dust. We've seen it before, we generally know what it does. We just don't know how to use it yet. And boom, those laser blasts look kind of familiar. They look a lot like the ones we fended off with dust before. So now you know how to generally avoid the unavoidable move. It's just a matter of smacking him with a broom until he dies. Which is something that can only be said about Anodyne. That's an exclusive feature to Anodyne, is smacking people with brooms until they're dead. So there you have it. You have the first dungeon of Anodyne. All they had to tell you is what buttons do what. And I forgot the fairy. Or the heart piece, or whatever you want to call it. But you get it, it flies up there. You get more health, you become stronger. Fun fact, part of the reason you have a broom is because the creator felt that if you had a sword, you would be too powerful. In this, with the broom, it feels more like you're doing what's necessary. You're just trying to survive, and that's fun. That's cool. That's deep shit. Anyway, my name is Benjamin, as always, and thank you for joining me for another God is a Geek hosted Let's Play.